And joining us for more this morning, we have Jim Bacchus, chair of the Global Practice Group of Greenberg Traurig, and he's also former chairman of the appellate body of the World Trade Organization, the WTO. Jim, it's good to see you here in Hong Kong. Thanks for joining us this morning.
It's always good to be in Hong Kong.
So let's talk about this Walmart case. What does it say about doing business in China?
There continue to be a whole array of trade and investment restrictions that foreign companies from the United States and elsewhere confront in China. The Chinese have done a good job by and large over the past decade of complying with their WTO obligations and opening up China, but there are still many impediments. And there's been a misplaced emphasis, in my view, by the Congress of the United States solely on the currency situation, when really most businesses are looking at practical impediments they face, non-tariff barriers, technical regulations, intellectual property violations, technology transfer requirements, government procurement discrimination, and much more.
Something that the U.S. Commerce Department and Gary Locke, previously as the Commerce Secretary, was trying to tackle in China. But let's get more on this currency issue, because you were a former Florida congressman representing the Democrats, of course, a few years back. What do you think about this currency bill? Do you think it'll ever see the light of day of the Congress floor?
I'm hopeful that the bill will not pass the House of Representatives. My friend and former colleague, John Boehner, who's now the Speaker, is opposed to it. Dave Camp, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, who was elected to Congress the same year I was, is also opposed to it. I think they're right to try to stop it. I think it's a mistake for the United States to do something like that. I also think it is a legal matter if they move forward with this bill as it's currently conceived. It would be inconsistent with the WTO obligations of the United States.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, as your experience as an overseer of international trade, I mean, what sort of signal does this send, and how does this hamper two-way trade between two superpowers that need this two-way express right now?
Well, the currency issue is a global issue. There are concerns about currency practices everywhere. I think it's legitimate to be concerned about Chinese currency practices, but my friends in Latin America are concerned about not only Chinese currency practices, but American currency practices. I think Secretary Geithner is right in suggesting to the Chinese and others that they try to work this out in the G20 and on a multilateral basis. And I think the Congress would be better served by focusing on the trade and investment restrictions that are impediments to real increases in prosperity through more two-way trade.
Well, as you mentioned, you know, we've seen an improvement in the competitiveness of the Chinese market, but there are still barriers. Namely, what do you think is hampering U.S. companies the most right now?
It's a combination of trade restrictions and investment restrictions. The Chinese need to do a better job of complying with their trade obligations under the WTO treaty. Discrimination in electronic payment services, which has led to one case in the WTO now, is a good example of that. But also there are investment restrictions, and there we need more rules. I think the United States and China should work together much more closely to conclude a bilateral investment treaty that would begin to establish some better means of ensuring that there's a free flow of investment into China and a free flow of Chinese investment into the United States. Yeah,
well, being the former chief judge at the WTO, you've seen these cases lobbed back and forth between China and the U.S. Do you think trade relations have gotten better between the two over these years?
I think it's inevitable that when two large trading countries trade a lot with each other, there will be disputes. We established the WTO dispute settlement system so that we could have a peaceful, rational way of resolving those disputes, and it's working. China has been a very productive and positive member of the WTO. Both China and the United States are bound by the WTO treaty to take all their treaty-related disputes to the WTO. It works. It's a good system. It can be improved, but it works.
All right. Jim, thank you so much for dropping by. Enjoy the rest of your trip here to Hong Kong. Nice to see you.